War has always been a contest of firepower, strategy, and sheer determination. But what if I told you that during World War II, some of the deadliest weapons weren't just bombs, tanks, or guns, but bizarre, unconventional ideas that sound like they came straight out of a science fiction novel? These weapons were real. Some were game-changing, some were terrifying, and others were so outlandish they never made it to the battlefield. Yet, they all share one thing in common. They were designed to win the war in ways no one saw coming. Let's begin with perhaps the most unusual of them all, a weapon that, had it been perfected, might have rewritten history. Imagine thousands of bats, yes, bats, flying over enemy cities, each carrying a tiny explosive strapped to its body. It sounds like something out of a mad scientist's laboratory, but it was a real plan developed by a Pennsylvania dentist named Lytle S. Adams. Adams, inspired after a visit to the bat-infested caves of Carlsbad, New Mexico, proposed using bats as living incendiary devices. The idea was simple, but devastating. Small bombs would be attached to the bats, which would then be released over Japanese cities at dawn. As the bats sought shelter in attics, eaves, and wooden buildings, the timed explosives would detonate, unleashing chaos and widespread fires. The U.S. military took the idea seriously. The project received approval from President Franklin D. Roosevelt himself, and tests showed promise. In one infamous incident, the experimental bats escaped and set an army base on fire. But as the project neared completion, it was ultimately shelved in favor of another secret weapon, the atomic bomb. Had the bat bombs been deployed, could they have changed the war's outcome? We'll never know. But it's a chilling thought that nature itself nearly became an agent of destruction. In the icy depths of the Atlantic, a different kind of secret weapon was taking shape, one that defied logic. A ship made not of steel, but of ice. It was called Project Habakkuk, an audacious British plan to build a 600-meter-long aircraft carrier out of a revolutionary material called pykrete, a mix of ice and wood pulp that was stronger than concrete and nearly unsinkable. The idea came from Geoffrey Pike, a British inventor who believed that traditional aircraft carriers were too vulnerable to German U-boats. Tests showed that pykrete could withstand bullets and even artillery shells. Churchill himself backed the plan. A prototype was built in a Canadian lake, proving the concept was possible, but despite its brilliance, the project was abandoned. The war had shifted, and conventional carriers were proving effective. Still, the idea of an unsinkable floating fortress remains one of the most ambitious military concepts ever devised. While the Allies experimented with ice and bats, Japan was building something that, for years, remained unmatched, the I-400 class submarine. At over 400 feet long, these were the largest submarines in the world until the 1960s. But what made them truly terrifying was their capability to carry and launch 3 Aichi M6A Seiren aircraft. These weren't just submarines. They were underwater aircraft carriers designed for surprise attacks on distant shores. Japan's plan was to use them to strike the U.S. mainland, particularly the Panama Canal, crippling American supply routes. The war ended before they could be fully utilized, but their existence was so secret that the U.S. Navy quickly seized and studied them before sinking the captured subs to keep the technology out of Soviet hands. A stealth weapon decades ahead of its time, the I-400 remains one of the most ambitious naval projects in history. Not all weapons explode. Some don't even exist, except in the minds of the enemy. The Ghost Army, officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, was one of the most remarkable deception units ever created. Made up of artists, sound engineers, and actors, their mission was to make the Germans believe that American forces were where they weren't. How did they do it? Inflatable tanks, fake radio transmissions, and pre-recorded battle sounds. Entire divisions were created from thin air, luring German forces into thinking they were about to be attacked, when in reality, the real attack was happening somewhere else. This elite unit's work was kept top secret until 1996. To this day, many of their missions remain classified. but historians estimate that their deception tactics saved thousands of lives and helped ensure victory in Europe. Finally, let's talk about a weapon that seems eerily similar to modern-day drones: the Goliath tracked mine. Imagine a small, remote-controlled tank loaded with explosives, designed to drive straight into enemy fortifications before detonating. The Germans built thousands of these in an attempt to destroy tanks, bridges, and bunkers. Though revolutionary, the Goliath had its flaws. The wired remote control system was easily jammed or cut, and the vehicle was slow, making it an easy target. Still, it marked the beginning of remote-controlled warfare, a technology that continues to evolve today. These weapons, some bizarre, some terrifying, and some ahead of their time, remind us that war is as much about innovation as it is about firepower. While some of these ideas never saw battle, they paved the way for future military technology in ways their inventors could never have imagined. Which of these do you think was the most brilliant or the most terrifying? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love uncovering the strangest secrets of history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because trust me, there's plenty more where this came from.